it's kind of become a running bit on this show that I think the 49ers are going to run more 22 and 12 personnel, multiple tight end sets. Been saying it. It's a new bit every offseason, like a free agent or a draft pick, because it gives the 49ers an opportunity to effectively run more multiple tight end personnel where they can run or pass out of those formations. But John Lynch said a really interesting thing on the 49ers Talk podcast with Matt Mayoko and Jennifer Lee Chan as well, but he was talking to Matt for this particular conversation. And he was talking about Luke Ferrell, which perked my ears up, because I'm going, why is John Lynch highlighting a tight end with 36 career catches for 318 yards and no touchdowns? And John Lynch effectively said that they signed Luke Ferrell because George Kittle had to stay in to block so much last year, because teams were pressuring the 49ers in certain ways that forced Kittle to have to stay in to block more often than the 49ers would like. So I went and I dug into the numbers. And it turns out that the 49ers last season only ran multiple tight end personnel on 13.6% of their offensive snaps. That was down from 22.3% in 2023 and a little over 24% in 2022. So they're running it quite a bit. But despite running it way less, George Kittle stayed into pass block on about 11.5% of the team's pass plays last year. That was down from like 7% in the previous 2 years. So I think this is interesting because Luke Ferrell, this relatively, I think, under the radar free agent signing that didn't really move the needle, could wind up having a pretty significant impact on the 49ers passing game if it means that George Kittle doesn't have to take on such an onus as a pass blocker. And he's out in the route more often, which I think is going to be pretty significant given the question marks at wide receiver. Brandon Ayuk, question mark. Ricky Pearsall, question mark, already dealing with a hamstring injury. Can Jawan Jennings duplicate his near 1,000-yard performance from last season? What are you getting from Jacob Cowing? What are you getting from Jordan Watkins, a rookie? What kind of load can DeMarcus Robinson carry as a receiver? Like all of those questions lead you back to, man, you got to get George Kittle more involved. And it sounds like the Luke Ferrell edition was less about, he's a great run blocker, he can do this and that, and more about freeing up George Kittle and trying to extend his prime into his early and mid 30s.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. And I think we're going to see a shift in terms of what we know the 49ers offense to be. Like if I'm going to put on my tinfoil cap and try to predict the future a little bit regarding what the Niners offense is going to look like, it might be sort of an extension of what we saw last year in terms of a shift away from play action and emphasizing the more standard drop back game, with Brock Purdy entering, what his fourth year now as the starter. I think that, and Nate Tice of the 301 podcast, I thought he did a really good job talking about it a few weeks ago. And that, like, when you emphasize play action as much as the 49ers typically have, what it does is it can compromise your pass protection. Mm-hmm. And you run play action enough, teams are going to figure out ways to defend it. And it's on the offense to readjust, right? Everything sort of comes in waves. It was and the next wave might be just the more traditional drop back game, because teams are figuring out, all right, we can stop the run, but also sort of limit what you can do passing off of play action or run fakes, right? Mm-hmm. So I wonder if we're going to see just George Kittle running more routes like you're talking about as a part of that. Like, is it going to be Kittle running more routes? And is it going to be, because, like, you remember, you watch the 49ers offense, Deebo Samuel in particular, right? Mm-hmm. How many plays do you remember? Because it felt like 10 per game. Deebo Samuel does like the crosses the formation before the snap. There's play action to him, and Deebo just kind of ran to the flat and stood there.
Right? JT O'Sullivan hates it.
Right, just like stood there, and it's like, man, okay, the fake is Deebo's only use on the play,
Right.
Like he's not doing anything to threaten the defense after the fake. And I would think that Kyle Shanahan would look at that and say, all right, that's a wasted use of one of your 5 eligible targets.
Yeah,
So
sure.
if you stop doing so much of the gadget play action stuff, and then you actually have that guy run a route, even if you're not intending to make him part of the read, at least he's running a route to potentially get somebody else open or take a linebacker from this area and bring him out to this area, creating an opening for maybe George Kittle in the middle of the field, right? I kind of think that's what we're going to see from the 49ers offense this year. And I think it's in line with what you're talking about because, yeah, having George Kittle, while he is a really good blocker, it's kind of a waste to have him as a pass protector.
Totally.
When he's one of your 1 or 2 best receiving options. Particularly like if you're like, you want to utilize Christian McCaffrey in the passing game, you'd much rather have him as a receiver rather than somebody who's just in there to pick up blitzes, right? So yeah, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
It's like having Kevin Durant and going, he's only going to block shots. We're just going to have him protect the rim.
Right.
And
Kevin Durant is just going to sit in the corner and, you're going to have the low defender isn't going to be able to just protect the rim because Durant's in the corner. It's like, no, you want to give Durant the ball. You want to move him around off the ball. Like,
right. So I actually kind of think, and I'm glad you bring up Deebo Samuel because I was saying this last year, and I struggle with this a little bit because I don't want to diminish what Deebo Samuel did for the 49ers. He was awesome. But I think that a little bit of what we saw last year was the 49ers offense being so reliant on Deebo Samuel being this explosive playmaker that manipulated defenses just by where he moved on in the formation, either pre or post snap. And I think you saw that diminish a little bit last year where, teams have got to defend Deebo Samuel. He doesn't stink, but it's not 2021 Deebo anymore. It's not he's in motion and all 11 defenders are freaking out because you got to figure out where he's going. And I think so much of the Niners offense is predicated on that when that's not as effective, like you said, Deebo comes across the formation. Well, that's supposed to move linebackers a certain way. That's supposed to do certain things with safeties. And now it doesn't. And so this hole that was supposed to be open is no longer there. And I think that moving on from him is going to force the 49ers to do what you're talking about. And that's just kind of overhaul the way their offense works conceptually. Because now you don't have this and they did the right thing. This is not, again, an anti-Deebo thing. You have a playmaker like that, you're going to do everything you can to just get every last drop of juice you can get out of him as a playmaker, whether, like I said, that's ball in his hands or not. And so when you remove that, I think it just forces you naturally to rethink what you're doing on offense. And so I think there's going to be a pretty tangible difference in what we see from the Niners offense this year when they take the field in week 1.
Yeah, and I think the Niners offensive line is part of this too. Like it needs to be optimized in the sense of like maybe you just put them in positions to succeed as pass protectors by having them pass protect earlier in the play rather than do, faking a like a run block. Cuz like how many times too do we see, particularly in play action, it's like you have a pulling guard, like go from, Dominic Pooney going from right guard way out to beyond left tackle to block the defensive end after it, it being play action. It's like, man, that's got to be really, really hard to do.
You have to execute perfectly.
Yeah, as an offensive line. And if it doesn't work, it looks like the stupidest thing ever.
Right.
You're like, wait, you're pulling an offensive lineman on a pass play? Like, what is happening? Like, this seems way more difficult. It might be, too, that's a product of Kyle Shanahan just wanting to simplify what his offensive linemen's responsibility are. So, like, okay, we're just going to just block your guy. Just, like, do a normal pass set. Don't worry about running across the formation and having to nail down an unblocked defensive end, midway through the play, right? So I think that might be part of it, too.
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, he talks about that with quarterbacks, right? There's always, for some reason, there's this huge thing about how Kyle Shanahan doesn't let his quarterback audible. Kyle Shanahan takes all the control. Well, what he does is he calls multiple plays, and based on the look you're getting, there's adjustments like quote unquote audibles built into the play. And the goal is not for Kyle Shanahan to have control of everything. It's read and react. It's making life easier on the quarterback. So when they go to the line, you're watching these couple of things instead of going, okay, what's the defense do? Oh, we need to run a different play. Let me run through the Rolodex of plays and see if I can find something that works. And all of a sudden the play clock's down and everybody doesn't know what they're doing. And so I think if you're doing that for your quarterback, I think it makes sense to do the same thing with your offensive line. Where, Colton McKivitt's a good player, but maybe he'll be a better player if you're asking him to just do a little bit less. Maybe Brock Purdy is not getting hit by Hassan Reddick because they're not putting anonymous tight end whose name I can't remember on an island with him in the NFC Championship game. And that's not to say they're going to eliminate play action entirely. That's not to say they're going to eliminate all creativity from their offense. It's just one of the hallmarks of Kyle Shanahan's offense is always being like a step ahead of what defenses are doing. Mm-hmm. So defenses have now gotten a lot smaller, a lot lighter. You're going to see more defensive backs. You got linebackers that can really move. So we may see the 49ers trend toward a more traditional, heavier, bigger kind of downhill style to try and combat that. And like you said, with the way teams are pressuring on play action, well, hey, not eliminating play action, but using it a little more sparingly. Let's see if your defenders can just defend this straight drop back and passing game where it's not super easy to just pressure this and pressure that. And now you're taking away the entire scheme. That's I think what we're seeing is Kyle Shanahan in real time. At least I think we're seeing him in real time adjust to modern NFL defenses, where if this goes right, whether it's this year or next year, you see the Niners offense really take off. And once again, the 49ers are just doing something that no other team is doing.
Yeah, and I do think too, like, you can just look at the idea of replacing Deebo Samuel with Ricky Pearsall. Mm-hmm. Right? Like Ricky Pearsall is, Mr. Route Runner guy. Mm-hmm. Where Deebo Samuel is Mr. Gadget play, just getting the ball in his hands and let him go guy. Mm-hmm. Like if you have another route runner, that could be emblematic of your overall shift in philosophy, and that like, no, let's just beat these guys with the routes that we can run. And if you design certain route combinations, maybe you can get guys open more consistently and rely on that, which has proven to be pretty sustainable in the NFL, right? Like right. Smart route combinations, good route running has led to a lot of championships, right? Obviously with elite quarterback play like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, like all this stuff. It's not been the, and teams have won with it, obviously, like, the Eagles did last year. But like typically what's been most sustainable in the NFL is elite route running, a quick processing quarterback, a la Peyton Manning, a la Tom Brady, obviously. And you can get guys open in short amounts of time. And that can be one of the most effective ways to run a passing game, rather than all of the moving parts of relying so heavily on play action. You have to be able to run the ball well for play action to work. I know, the data nerds have said you don't need to run the ball. I'll always go back to a conversation I had with Fred Warner back when I was covering the team, like how much more impactful it is as a linebacker to defend play action when a team is running the ball well. And he's like, yeah, right. It's like a huge thing. It's like if a team isn't running the ball well, it makes our life so much easier as defenders when it comes to defending play action, because they don't have to sell out as much. It's like right. And I'll take Fred Warner's word over the data nerds out there. But point being, like, if Kyle Shanahan wants to shift to a more traditional drop back style of passing game, because that's sort of the next wave, I think that would probably be smart based on what Brock Purdy's skill set is, based on the receivers you have now, because you don't have Deebo Samuel, elite gadget guy anymore. You're emphasizing Ricky Pearsall on his route running. based on what he thought the 49ers offense needed after losing to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl when the Niners just couldn't win against man-to-man coverage.
Well, and one of the things you talk about processing, that's one of the things with Brock Purdy, right? Like that's always been the thing is, man, he just sees the game. He processes the game so fast. You heard during the pre-draft process, he's doing these workouts where, or these tests where, the way he saw and was able to download and see when a safety moved a certain way was so much higher than everyone else. I forget the exact test, but that's his whole thing is processing. So why not utilize that superpower? If that's what he's going to be really good at, instead of making him turn his back to the defense and then have to turn around and reset and figure everything out. And oh my God, now here comes this free rusher, or oh my God, this hole that was supposed to be opened up is not because they didn't react to how Debo was doing. Instead of that, just let him drop back, and when Ricky Pearsall is open, or when Jawan Jennings is open, or George Kittle's open, let it rip. That makes more sense to me because it felt like a lot of last year was Brock Purdy getting to the top of his drop and not 100% knowing where to go with it. And I think that's why you saw more running. I think that's why you saw him holding onto the ball for entirely too long. So I think just kind of simplifying the game in that way and letting your players try and go win, letting your receivers win in coverage, letting your quarterback read and make throws. I don't hate that. Even if it is kind of counter to, oh wow, the game is so complicated now. You got a pre-snap motion and play action and defenses are changing coverage at the snap. And okay, so if defenses are going to get more complicated, then it makes sense to maybe simplify.
Yeah. Where are you at as far as Ricky Pearsall being a breakout candidate? Because I've seen that kind of going around the internet a little bit. Where you stand on that?
I'll believe it when I see it. I think Ricky Pearsall I'll go out on this limb. I think Ricky Pearsall is a better player than Dante Pettis. But dude, I remember.
I should hope so.
Yeah, no, I'm ready to go there. But no, remember after Dante Pettis' rookie year, I remember it was the take was, hey, Dante Pettis is due for a breakout. Look how good he was in year one. Imagine in year two. And the wheels just fell off. So that's always a possibility. The fact that Pearsall dealt with a hamstring and shoulder in camp last year and now is already dealing with a hamstring this year. If he gets a full training camp and he gets some preseason reps and he's ready to go week one, okay, I'll be ready for the breakout. But man, if he misses the first 2 weeks of camp and he's in a blue non-contact jersey and he's not doing team drills for the last part of the preseason and they're expecting him to step on the field week one and be awesome, I can't buy that. The guy's got to practice. The guy's got to get real reps.
Yeah, I'm totally with you.
I think he's good though.
I'm pretty high on Pearsall as like a healthy player. Like if he's healthy, I think he could become a Brandon Ayuk type receiver. I think you watch him play in college, the measurables, he doesn't have the arm length that Ayuk has. That was really sort of the standout thing in terms of his athleticism. But like, man, Ricky Pearsall jumped 42 inches leading up to the draft. That's a 97th percentile, 3-cone drill, 6.64, 93rd percentile, 20-yard shuttle, 89th percentile, broad jump, 88th percentile. Like, yeah, he's not the biggest guy at 6'1" and 190 or whatever he is. But like the athleticism, the route running, the toughness, the hands, all of that stuff would seemingly translate. But yeah, the big issue is just the injury factor. And, obviously last year was a completely unique situation. He missed time in training camp and then got shot in Union Square. Like that's still one of the craziest things ever happened. But like, I am optimistic about what Pearsall could be if he could be healthy. And the health is obviously just a gigantic question mark at this point. Right. So I'm very optimistic. Like you said, Ricky Pearsall participates in training camp. Very optimistic about, the potential of him being an 80 catch guy this year, maybe. Mm-hmm. Particularly, with Brandon Ayuk being out, with teams being more prepared to try to stop Jawan Jennings and George Kittle, maybe it'll be an opportunity for Pearsall to get a lot of one-on-one coverage. Maybe Kyle Shanahan is really thinking about ways to get him open with different route combinations and in the more traditional passing game like we're talking about. Maybe Pearsall's the guy that's doing all the crossing routes that Brandon Ayuk did in 2023.
Sure.
Right? All that makes sense to me, but it's just hard to bank on it given Pearsall's injury history to this point. But if he's healthy, I think he's absolutely talented enough to do it. And at this point, too, I do trust Kyle Shanahan and the Niners front office's ability to evaluate receivers that they're taking that early. Because I don't think there's a whole lot of Dante Pettis to Ricky Pearsall's game. I think the Niners have sort of evolved. I think they've been good at evolving the way it was oh, Dante Pettis could return punts, so that must mean he's a good route runner. It's well, yeah, but you can knock him over with a feather, right? Or he's just not physically tough. And it's oh, Deebo Samuel is Anquan Bolden with the ball in his hands and just the toughest dude to bring down in the league and great, but he's not a great route runner. I'm not saying Ricky Pearsall is a combination of those things, but he's more of a balanced type talent.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of an evolution of the way they view the position, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think, I mean, I think you just saw it in the way he produced last year with so little practice and with so many on a not great version of the 49ers after getting shot in the chest, the way he stepped onto the field right away and just kind of produced.
Yeah.
Flashed some of that athleticism. I was really impressive for me. So like I said, I'm high on him as a player, but as far as the breakout year, Can I get 17 games from him? Can I get a full training camp from him? That's what I'm watching for first before I start expecting 800, 900, 1,000 yards, something like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's all I got. Anyway, Luke Ferrell, am I right?
Luke Ferrell, just the spark plug of conversation.
Yeah. Tune in next week when Evan Anderson and the evolution of the 49ers defensive line comes to the fore.
Yeah. It's gonna be exciting. Gonna be exciting times in the land of 49ers discourse. Yeah, looking forward to training camp starting.
We got training camp report dates today. July 15 is when the 49ers will report their first practice scheduled for July 22nd.
That's early, no?
It feels a week early to me.
Yeah, it does feel a week or two. No, they don't. They're not in the Hall of Fame game. That's interesting.
So they also have a joint practice scheduled. The first practice with the Denver Broncos is scheduled for August 7th.
Mm-hmm.
That's in Santa Clara. And then they'll also have a practice in Las Vegas before their preseason game against the Raiders. That practice is scheduled for August 14th.
Okay. That's fun.
Get fired up.
Yeah, fired up. That's going to be here sooner than we think.
It's kind of wild.
It's pretty wild. We got some stuff coming up. I mean, personally, work-wise in June, and we got the A's in Sacramento, which is just throwing my whole life for a loop. We'll have the American Century Championship wall-to-wall coverage at the B. Make sure you check that out. George Kittle will be participating along with Kyle Juszczyk. I think some other 49ers luminaries such as Steve Young and Jerry Rice will be back there. So we will. I don't know how much we'll talk about that on the podcast, but it'll be in the pages of the B.
Time at the ACC.
Yeah. And
you should use that time as a professional journalist to try and get Steve Young or somebody on the podcast.
That would be, I mean, Steve's my guy. Love Steve. A lot of Kelsey coverage, potentially Taylor Swift talk. Just can never discount that, obviously.
How disappointed are we that we're not going to get Reputation Taylor's version?
Listen, I get it. I
imagine the 2-time Emmy winner in your house is pretty devastated.
I think she's understanding of the situation. If you were put it this way. I mean, would you really feel all that compelled if you were in a happy and healthy relationship to go back and record a bunch of music about other relationships? I think that would be kind of a tough ask. And it's also kind of like, you wrote your college thesis or your grad school thesis or whatever. Do you want to do that again?
Well, and
I get it.
Nobody's listening to this anymore. This is just you and me. It's just two homies chatting now. So subscribe YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. So yeah, Reputation feels so because here's my Taylor Swift journey. I recently decided that because I'd not listened. I just the music wasn't for me. I tried her first couple albums when they first came out because I had so many friends who were big fans. I just didn't like the music, so I just kind of punted on liking her music as in general. So I went back and I've revisited it, and I went through it. I did a whole listen, and it's so jarring how different Reputation is from everything else.
Yeah,
and the idea that you're just gonna be able to put yourself back in that space and record meaningful music, like, yeah, no, I get it. Why she wouldn't be able to do that? So
yeah,
disappointed, but definitely understand.
Yeah, but even like the other stuff that she has re-recorded, it's not like all that different, right? And
Yeah.
she owns it now. Like, it sounds slightly updated, but she owns it now. So like, she doesn't necessarily need to. So it's fine. Like, I think it's fine. More importantly, the Swiftie in my household also thinks it's fine.
Okay, good.
So we're just gonna default. We're just gonna default to that. As long as she's cool with it, I'm cool with it.
Love that.
And we can listen to it freely without the guilt of it not belonging to her previously, because that was weighing on all of us. It was weighing on all of us, Kyle.
Every single time a Reputation song came on my music app, is like, it hurt a little bit.
Right.
I had to turn it off though.
Yeah. Now the money's going in her pocket. She can finally.
Now I'm listening guilt free.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be Getaway Car all the way home.
Yeah. Oh, I like that symbolism. That's good. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe Taylor will make an appearance at the golf tournament in Lake Tahoe.
Get her on the pod.
Man, Kylie was
Kylie Kelsey.
Kylie, probably the nicest celebrity I've ever met and conversed with. I was fortunate enough to walk all 18 holes with the Kelsey Brigade last year's ACC one of the days, and Kylie is just top-notch individual. Like, literally, I think I've said this before, but like, she had to be asked for hundreds of autographs and pictures, and literally gave them and took them all. She didn't say no to a single person while walking 18 holes with her husband and brother-in-law. And she had a bunch of beers in her purse for everybody in the she was muling beer for her husband and Travis, and talking to me and being cool with the fans. It's what being a celebrity should be, really.
Totally.
So shout out to one of the top podcasters in the game too, Kylie Kelsey.
That's what I remember when I'm walking around the streets of Sacramento.
You kind of are a big deal, though. You go to a Kings game and a bunch of people recognize you. Doesn't happen to me nearly as much.
4 people. All right. Subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your podcasts. Candlestick Chronicles on YouTube, youtube.com/@Candlestick Chronicles Podcast, or just search Candlestick Chronicles and we're right there, or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you do subscribe, please rate and review as long as you like the show. If you don't like the show, then please don't rate and review. That would be mean and hurt our feelings, or at least my feelings.
And drop us a comment if you want us to start a Taylor Swift / Kelsey
Candle Swift Chronicles. Should we do it? Let us know. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.